Let's take a look at a slightly more complicated example using angles and circles, just where we have more complicated pieces. So the angle that we're looking at is an exterior angle. The angle formed is outside the circle. So you should know from watching the previous videos that that angle is equal to the difference of the two arcs divided by 2. So let's use that idea to set up an equation to find our missing variable in this case. So our angle is what we're going to put this start our equation with. So our angle this time is 34 degrees. Sometimes that's what's unknown to us, sometimes we know it. In this case we know it. So that 34 degrees then is equal to the difference of the two arcs, and we have to make sure we do the big arc minus the small arc. And it should be pretty obvious, but if you can't tell, the bigger arc will always be the one that's farther away from the angle. So the bigger arc in this case is 3x minus 2. And from that, I'm going to subtract off the small arc. Now, what you really have to be very careful about, because I'm subtracting this time, I have to make sure that I'm going to keep this in parentheses because I need to make sure that I subtract both things. In other words, that subtraction sign will need to be distributed to the parentheses, and that's a big common mistake people forget about. But don't forget, it's the difference of the two arcs and then divide by 2. So there's my setup using what we've talked about in another video. It's going to be, as you can see, a little more complicated to solve, but it shouldn't be too bad. As we did in the other videos, let's get rid of that divide by 2 first by doubling both sides. The opposite of dividing by 2 is to multiply by 2, so I'll do that right away to cancel those out. I'm left with then 68 when I multiply 34 by 2. And then let's drop those parentheses by distributing that negative sign. I've got to make sure both pieces are being subtracted. So subtract x, most people catch that, but they forget that minus 6 if they don't forget the parentheses, and it's going to be wrong if you forget that. Okay, let's combine some like terms, and it shouldn't be too bad from there. So 3x minus x is just 2x. And then negative 2 minus 6 is negative 8. It's getting easier all the time. Add 8 to both sides, I get 76 is equal to 2x. And then dividing both sides by 2, I find out that x must be equal to 38.